Job seeker cuts are just days away. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian Heiser here and welcome to another episode of Heiser Says. Grab your stein of coffee because I want to have a look at this article from news.com.au which is discussing, well, the fact that job seeker is going to be cut in just a couple of days. What is it? It's 29th as I'm recording this. And so yes, we're running out of time. New Year's Eve, New Year's Day is fast approaching. So, have you been receiving the job seeker supplement, the additional payment? That's $100 per fortnight. If we look at the numbers here of the number of people that are doing it, what are we seeing here? So you've got, what, 962,000 people getting the job seeker, hang on, that's job keeper. I want to look here, job seeker, sorry. You got about 1.4 million, which is this line here, the New Start and Job Seeker, right up about here. So probably just dipped a little bit under. So to say, about 130 million less a fortnight moving around the economy. So if you're one of the people that have taken advantage of this, that have received this money, have you adjusted your standard of living to account for this, or have you put it aside for a rainy day? Now, I'm hoping, probably naively, that people have not adjusted their standard of living and have taken that extra money to be put aside for a rainy day. But the thing is, there'll be a lot of people that have had to depend on this job seeker and New Start through no fault of their own and have just been going through the process of adjusting their lifestyle down to that level. I mean, you can see here, this is the total number of people that are on job seeker and youth allowance at the moment. 331,000 in Queensland, 420 in New South Wales, 405,000 in Victoria. If you combine them both together, you're nearly 1.5 million people here in Australia on these two forms of welfare. So what is this? How's this $100 hit? That's going to flow through to the economy. It's going to have an impact on a lot of people with their fortnightly spending. So millions of Australians will be left $100 a fortnight worse off from New Year's Day as the government cuts the job seeker supplement. The job seeker supplement will drop from $250 per fortnight to $150 on January 1 before the JobKeeper rate is cut by $200 3 days later. Well, if we look here at JobKeeper, we can see 960,000 people are being supported by JobKeeper. And this is probably keeping some businesses running that may be zombie companies. But I guarantee you there are also some businesses that are getting it that have to take advantage of it, even if they don't really need it, because it gives their competitors an unfair competitive advantage. This is the problem when the government mishles in and gets involved in all this type of stuff. We can see here, you've got 175 JobKeeper applicants in Queensland, 323,000 in New South Wales, and 289,000 in Victoria. That's 961,000 overall in the entire country. And what I did is I looked at it as the population of each state and the number of employed people by each state. And I'll just delete this. What really shocks me is this chart down here, this table that I did, map I did, showing you the percentage of employed people on JobKeeper. So JobKeeper is going to get cut, and nearly 9% of employed people in Victoria are being supported by this. So the thing is, this is government spending that's not going to go to these people anymore. Some businesses are going to take a hit. Unemployment is going to have to go up because of this. And remember, we also have trading while insolvent disappearing in a couple of days as well. 2 million Aussie Australians on job seeker, youth allowance and other forms of welfare will be affected. The job seeker payment was initially set at $550 at the height of the pandemic, but the coalition has always insisted the boost was temporary. It was lowered to $250 per fortnight in September and will end in March. Well, here's the thing. This is not designed to be universal basic income. That's not what it is. UBI has never worked, everyone. There's examples in Finland that I talked about in a video over years ago, probably a year or two ago now, where it made people feel nicer and happier, but it didn't really work. And the problem is, with any of these, adjustments to welfare, do you think the civil servants who are all employed at Centrelink will be happy that they're all instantly fired because we don't need them anymore and just transferred to UBI? Do you think that'd happen? That would lose anyone in an election. It means you just have to add this stuff on top of all of the other stuff we're doing. So the government's never going to cut spending. So it's crazy to advocate for it because it's just going to be more of a trap. And it'll lead to inflation. The January cut will come at a time unemployment is forecast to peak, with Treasury predicting unemployment will rise to 7.8% in the March quarter, though that was revised down from the initial estimates of 8%. And this is what I've been saying for some time. We haven't actually felt the impact of this recession. We had 2 quarters of GDP going down. We haven't felt the impact yet because they're propping up the economy. One thing that's concerning is all the people that were lining up for this Centrelink that didn't have any emergency reserves or funds aside. And even if you do have emergency reserves, they expect you to burn through it before you get to this. This is the thing. You can't treat this, well, perhaps it's just my bias. You can't trust the government to take care of you, everyone. You can't depend on them. What would you think about that? Labor has warned the economy is not strong enough to taper the payments, with frontbencher Bill Shorten saying the cuts were too harsh on people already living paycheck to paycheck. We're not talking about big amounts of money. People shouldn't have to live on 2-minute noodles and a can of baked beans, he told Today. Well, why not, Billy? Why not, mate? If you're doing it tough, you got to. You've got to make the sacrifices until you get yourself sorted. There's nothing wrong with living off... Okay, 2-minute noodles are garbage. It's not real food, but there's nothing wrong with cutting back and really... baked beans, they're not too bad. Still, it's not that good food. I'd rather just live on mince. Get cheap mince or get offal. Live off that. You can get animal fat real cheap too from butchers. These are the things that you have to do. Why are we in such a culture now where no one is expected to even make the slightest bit of sacrifice to get ahead? It's just what we're seeing here in the media or everywhere that's being put forward. Is that why we now have a country that can't even appreciate the fact that when there's a recession, there can be some opportunity created from that? You need to have some creative destruction in the economy to allow opportunity to grow up from the bottom. I mean, they're propping up the housing market. They're chucking everything at it so everyone feels good. But then you've got a whole generation of people that are struggling to get in. And then you're shamed if you make sacrifices. People who are living on 2-minute noodles and honestly, I'd tell you, look at the carnivore diet and get cheaper meat. But they're shaming people who may have to make these sacrifices. There aren't the jobs there for people to go into. We're not in full employment where you can go out the front door and get a job. It's hard. Well, it always is hard. And it's just going to get worse. In regional Australia, we've got to stand up for the regions and just provide some more money in their economy. But we're all going to have to pay for it later, Bill. That's the problem. It's a burden. It's not free money. We're all going to pay for it later. Mr. Shorten warned Australia was not out of the woods yet, with an expected spike in insolvencies throughout 2021 to swell the unemployment queue. Now, I've spoken about this in previous videos. We're sitting at around half the insolvency rate that we should have. And that's because of all of the interventions that they've allowed, essentially businesses to trade while insolvent. And that's ending in a couple of days as well. And I'll do another video looking at that once again, because it's what scares me the most, the trading while insolvent. I've been fortunate. I'm dealing with decent-sized businesses that can pay me. But I've had people go me, just not pay. And it's tough. It really is. And that's one way you learn to live really cheap. when multimillionaires don't pay you for 90 days, 120 days. Oh, it's fun. It's fun. Or people don't even pay you at all. The economic effects are reverberating around the economy, especially in regional towns and suburbs, where there are a lot of casual workers who've borne the biggest brunt, he said. I think for the less well-off, we shouldn't be cutting their circumstances at this point in time. The labour market shows signs of recovery recently, with unemployment dropping to 6.8% in November. Treasurer Josh Frydenberg said in December the government would keep its options open beyond the March cut-off date. We will continue to monitor the labour market situation. But what we want to do is get people from job seeker into work, he said earlier this month. Well, yes, you want people working. People need to work. Working is good for you. Just sitting on your ass, getting a government handouts and not doing anything, it's not creative. It's not, you can get yourself in a rut there. And the problem, the biggest risk is then you can have intergenerational poverty, and that's what you don't want. That's what you want to avoid. And that's why I understand why the government is focusing on getting younger people into work. The government has been buoyed by stronger than expected figures in its half-yearly update, with Mr. Frydenberg insisting the economy has turned the corner after the initial shock of COVID-19. We'll have to see. I'm not as confident as he is about that. The September quarter GDP rose 3.3%, the largest quarterly increase since '76. Well, that's not hard when you have a huge crash to the economy for GDP to rise up. But here's the thing. What's going to happen is next year we'll see if when there is an election called. This will become an election issue. All of the government support and financial stimulus will become an election issue. I can't see Australians appreciating the fact that all of this government intervention into the economy has wider implications, or the fact that some creative destruction of the market is necessary to create new opportunities. Times are tough, guys. And well, one thing we don't need is people shaming, particularly from our leaders, shaming people who have to really do it tight to get by. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, sometimes we all have to go through it. If you've got a whole lot of debt and you're making six figures and your money's piling in, but you've been stupid and just piled on the debt, you need to eat 2-minute noodles and baked beans to get by. You need to do it. It's part of life. We shouldn't shame people for that. What do you reckon, everyone? So there we have it. In just days, a big hit to the economy. Job seeker, well, their boost will be gone. So over 1 million people will feel it. And the job keeper, nearly 1 million people will lose that support for their businesses. I wonder how many people will have their hours cut to deal with that. We'll have to see. And as well, insolvency. That's going to be interesting. We'll have to keep an eye on that. I think that will start to materialize in the first quarter once BASs and GST bills and all those things start to trickle in. Then we'll start seeing some insolvencies. We'll have to see if once again the ATO will be the one bankrupting people. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and want to support the content I create here, there are a few ways you can. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us using our affiliate links to Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or Aussie Broadband. You can buy a merch from High, as it says, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Take care, everyone, and have a great day. I'll see you next time.